Well, hello again, and welcome to Musing on the Move, or Musing Not on the Move, as happens to be the case today. Now, you can see from my dirty boots, I've had to trudge through some mud and muck to get to this place. But this is one of my favourite spots. It's in Delamere Forest. We've talked about that in previous vlogs, the Forêt de la Mer, as the French conquerors called it when they first came. And I'm sitting in front of, actually, what I would call a stang. Now, that's a Yorkshire colloquialism for a small pond-like body of water, and that's taken from the French also. So they would use the word étang to describe something like this, and wherever the French have a word that begins with E acute, you can take the E away, put an S in, and you get an English equivalent. So in Yorkshire they've still got the word stang for a small pond. The word study, that's etude with the E taken away and an S put in its stead. And I'm kind of fascinated by the origin, the etymology of words, because my mum used to talk to us about that a lot when we were on long journeys. She would entertain us with explanations like that. Well, sitting here, another word that springs to my mind is the word paradise, because this is, in a way, it's a paradise. I've been here so many different times in so many different kinds of weather. It's actually a pretty grey but still day here. If you come here in the sunshine, it looks totally different. When the wind is gently blowing, all the reeds start to weave and blow and the trees start to move, then you get a different kind of beauty. But it doesn't matter when you come here, you find something beautiful. Now, paradise, as soon as we say that word, it reminds me of a scripture that I was reading the other day. And that is Luke chapter 23, verses 39 to 43. One of the criminals who hung there hurled insults at him. "Aren't you the Christ? Save yourself and us." But the other criminal rebuked him. "Don't you fear God?" He said, "Since you're under the same sentence, we're punished justly. We're getting what our deeds deserve. But this man has done nothing wrong." So in other words, he's knowing who Jesus is. Then he said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." And Jesus says, "I tell you the truth, today you'll be with me in paradise." Now, it's one of the occasional uses of the word paradise in the New Testament. It's also used when the New Testament talks about the Garden of Eden. Now, paradise is an interesting word. The English word paradise comes from the French word paradis, which is just paradise with an E taken off the end. That comes from the Latin word paradisus, that comes from the Greek word paradeisos, and that comes from the old Iranian word paradeida. Now, the old Iranian word literally means something that has been walled around, and it was often used to refer to a walled garden or a park for royal usage, but its connotations of protection on the outside and beauty on the inside. So when we talk about paradise, that's the kind of image that it conjures up for me. And I had an interesting experience of this. Years and years ago, I was on a Bible smuggling trip into Kurdistan just after the first Gulf War. And it was very difficult to get in there, it was very dangerous, and we're driving through some pretty arid countryside as well. So emotionally and physically, it was a quite demanding journey. And on top of that, there was the fear of what would happen if we were caught. So we arrived at the first main stop on this journey in a village called Zaho, which is not far in past the Kurdish border from eastern Turkey. And that place was trashed. It was a really rundown place. It was in a sorry state. There was litter blowing in the streets. There was many semi-demolished houses. There'd been fighting there. And we were taken to the place where we were going to stay, and it was basically just a concrete wall with grey steel doors set into it. Looked prison-like, if anything. So it wasn't a particularly encouraging place to arrive at. But we knocked on the door, the gate opened, and we walked through into a paradise. It was a walled garden, small courtyard on the inside, and all around the edges was a beautiful border, mostly of roses, but then other flowers. And the roses were so aromatic. The perfume was really strong, and of course it was held in a little bit by the walls, and we were getting the dying heat of the day going into the cool of the evening. Of course, that's when the roses were just exuding their perfume at maximum strength, and it was such an overwhelming, beautiful experience. I actually cried because I got so much pent-up emotion in me anyway, for all the reasons I've just talked about. but it was spectacularly beautiful. And the difference between outside this concrete wall and inside was amazing. So when I think about heaven, I think about a place of incredible tranquility, incredible peace, of overwhelming beauty, and of all the impact that that has on my senses. Not that we'll do nothing, because we've talked about that in the previous vlog. We're going to be quite busy, I think, but imagine being busy doing things which are fantastic, busy doing things which you enjoy, busy doing things which give you pleasure, all the while in a state of enjoyment that we associate with a paradise-like walled garden. Well, that's the picture of heaven that I have in my mind. And that's what I think I'm going to when this life is over, whenever that may be. That's where I'm heading, somewhere that actually I want to be, and where my senses will all be able to operate at their maximum extent in a way that they rarely, if ever, can when we're down here on the earth.